Windsor's battery plant, when it's done in late 2023, Windsor's battery plant is going to be able to produce more battery power than the entire battery economy of America combined.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. I mean,
like Elon Musk is down there with all his Tesla. Nope, we're bigger. We're bigger than Elon Musk and all those guys combined. Add them all up. General Motors, all of them. Add them all up. Windsor's going to have a bigger battery plant than everybody combined. Does everybody get what that means? Like, it's just our brains down here, like the community leaders down here. Like, I have pints of beer with them. We struggle to understand everything that's coming.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Canadian Real Estate Channel. I'm Adam JD Martin, and today we've got Rhys Trehnaile with us from the Vanguard team down in Windsor, and we're going to get an update on what's going on right now in the Windsor market. So Rhys, what is going on down there?
Yeah, more of the same. This month that's just gone by, the summer lull mixed with the raise in the interest rates continued to keep the market down. So basically 2 months in a row now, we've had 393 properties sold, 2 months in a row. And I've been telling everybody, like on the last podcast, this is actually a good thing for the investors because the market got to a point by the end of March. So between January 1st and March 31st, property values in Windsor went up 36%, which is insanely, that should never happen ever in any market. And fortunately, that market came right back down. So the net sort of property value gains on the year are going to be between about 6% and 11%. But what it does for us as investors is it gives purpose to come to Windsor again, which is being able to get a cash flow, right? You want property appreciation. You know, you play the hot potato game in Toronto and you hope that those prices keep going up 20% a year, as they have for quite a while now, right? If you want cash flow coupled with property appreciation, then you come to Windsor. And in fact, when you measure sort of pay down of principal of mortgage, net cash flow, and property appreciation, Windsor's actually been one of the top 5 major cities in Canada to invest in for about 6 or 7 years now.
Yeah, that totally adds up to me. And I do agree with you. We actually just finished shooting our Toronto market update and going through some of the numbers down there. And just as fast as those numbers can rise, they can also fall. So, you know, Toronto's down right now on average in the different boroughs, like 20%. And those are very big numbers. But the difference really is that it's not that in every case when those numbers fall down that the rents were strong enough to begin with to cash flow with the mortgages that they have. So I think it's important.
And the rents haven't come down, you know, which is important to note. So this is why we're able to get sort of, you know, I said this the other day. I'll never forget, after these spikes and this craziness, I saw a duplex that one of my teammates was selling, and it was at a 7.3 capitalization rate. And I went, oh man, finally. Like, it's been 3 years since I've seen a 7 cap, right? So these are good things for us as investors.
Yeah, I mean, we are entering probably another good buying season. And we've been discussing this with all the market updates that, you know, if you're ready, you have liquidity, you've got your power team assembled, you've got your mortgages or otherwise your financing lined up, then we are starting to see now great deals, whether that's in London or even in Toronto or Waterloo, Cambridge, Kitchener, Woodstock, all across the board. I'm starting to see deals coming up now, and we're entering that season as well with natural seasonality where people are looking to transact, right? Historically, we're going to have great seasonality for this fall market. So I'm interested.
Yeah, I think the one thing that does distinguish with Windsor is it's not just an economic game coming up for southwestern Ontario. It's a generational shift down here. We've had a continually steady shift from being a dirty little car town 50, 60 years ago. We became the world's leaders in parts, tool, die, and mold making. That was the first sort of stamp. But now through sound sort of community leadership over the last 20 years, you're moving into the health industries heavily. Thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs. Logistics. For example, Amazon is opening up a 150,000 square foot facility. FedEx just opened up a hub here. And you don't hear about those things. But what you also don't hear about are the Michigan companies that are now coming to Windsor because we have the educated workforce, right? Like our university punches out a lot of software engineers and engineers in general, mechanical and industrial in particular. They need those people. So now they're opening up businesses in downtown Windsor and into the environs. And now you're getting every sort of international company that wants to be around the biggest battery plant in North America upcoming, which is in Windsor, Ontario. I don't think I need to explain to the people watching this that batteries are becoming pretty important economically. And to put in perspective, Windsor's battery plant, when it's done in late 2023, Windsor's battery plant is going to be able to produce more battery power than the entire battery economy of America combined.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. I mean,
like Elon Musk is down there with all his Tesla. Nope, we're bigger. We're bigger than Elon Musk and all those guys combined. Add them all up. General Motors, all of them. Add them all up. Windsor's going to have a bigger battery plant than everybody combined. Does everybody get what that means? Like it's just our brains down here, like the community leaders down here. Like I have pints of beer with them. We struggle to understand everything that's coming. I just talked to the former finance minister yesterday, who's from Windsor, and he was explaining to me things around the international bridge that are going to happen with the industrial base and people that are going to want to be right off of that logistical hub. I hadn't even thought of it. And he said, Rhys, nobody has. It's just there's so much coming and there's so many opportunities for investors to take advantage of it. And it's at a level. And again, like the province of Ontario, Hydro One is forced to increase the electrical capacity coming down to Windsor Essex. They're forced to double it just to keep up. And by contrast, the rest of the province is expecting about 7% gains in the same amount of time. We're doubling, like 102%.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I mean, that's going to have obvious effects on the real estate market itself, right? Yeah. I mean, local businesses will start popping up. There's going to be huge demand for labor for those types of businesses that are coming in, or even just the labor regarding those infrastructure not problems, but opportunities, right? Like as the city is growing, there's just so much that goes into that actually happening between infrastructure and local business. So
yeah. Like we have a research and development facility that's opening up just to study battery technology. And it'll be one of two world-class R&D facilities in the world. The other one's in Europe. 650 engineers alone. Wow. 650 engineers. Are 400 of them going to buy $1 million homes? 500 of them? $1 million homes? Like think about just that. Yeah. As far as the real estate impact, it's you're talking about $500 million, I think $500 million, $500 million in real estate, just 500 of those engineers.
Yeah. And again, the quality of tenant that you can attract with those types of jobs is just unbelievable. If we're talking rentals, or even if we want to talk flips, I mean, people are going to be looking for properties that don't need a lot of work. Like if you're coming to a city for work, you're not looking for something you need to fix up. You're looking to move in and get to work at your brand new high paying job. And I think that's something that can't be overlooked. Particular Lee, like these infrastructure projects, I mean, these government employees have great stable income, and for the most part, they're not going to be turned over as employees. That for the most part, these projects last a long time, and they bring reliable, well-paid people to the city.
Yeah, I mean, construction will run out at some point, probably 10 years down the road. But you're absolutely right, Adam. These are not unskilled line worker positions. These are skilled labor after skilled labor after skilled labor positions. I mean, people don't even know that when you talk about automation software, right? You say, oh, where's the biggest cluster, Adam? Where's the biggest cluster of software companies doing automation?
I wouldn't know, but I would chance a guess somewhere in California.
I meant in Canada. I mean, most people would say Waterloo. It's actually
Waterloo. Yeah, for Canadian for sure. That would be the area.
But it's actually Windsor, as far as automating machinery to move. Right, whether it's a robot or whether it's a car. The highest concentration of software companies working on that stuff is Windsor, Ontario.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Again, like these are things that people aren't thinking about.
People think we're Oshawa, that we're just putting cars together. We got one plant that puts cars together. That's the Stellantis plant. Everything else is making the parts, making the tools, making the dies, making the molds. And about 20 years ago, all these companies deviated heavily from just doing big three contracts. So when I started in real estate sales and I was doing a lot of commercial, industrial, and income property sales, I was dealing with a lot of the owners of these shops. And I would go in there to see what they were doing out of a lot of curiosity. And they were all big three contracts. They were doing stuff for GM, Ford, and Chrysler 20 years ago. Now you go in, they're doing parts for wind turbine. I'm going through my clients in my head. Wind turbines, parts for nuclear power plants, parts for Happy Meal toys, industrial vending machines. They're doing everything, man. And for all companies, Boston Medical have all their fine tools all made in Windsor.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Because nobody else in the world can make these things, right? It's like there's an expertise level here that, and a skilled labor force here, as you say, is like resilient. So during the last the global meltdown, it was very interesting. The behavior patterns changed. So instead of firing a whole bunch of people off because you don't have enough contracts to sustain them, what they started doing, because they didn't want to lose their tradespeople, is they started getting them to agree to work 30 hours a week each so that everybody could keep their jobs. And it's very unusual to see companies do that, because the thought process is that they are going to be really angry and demoralized, right? But they found the opposite. They found that they all banded together because of the recession. But in the old days, they'd fire half of them and then they can't get them back. So we retained the workforce. And what ended up happening after the global meltdown is we went from 24% of the North American economy for tool, die, parts, and molds. We went all the way up to 37% because we retained our workforces. So we stole a ton of business from the United States. And we haven't relinquished it. Yeah. So
that's an amazing strategy for long-term growth, right? And
I think very interesting.
Time preference plays a big part in the kind of local ups and downs. So, sitting here as an investor who's kind of dabbled in Windsor, but not really, and have done a lot more business outside of Windsor, like what are some things that somebody like myself who, real estate investor, small, medium portfolio is looking to get into Windsor, what should we be looking for? What areas, what price points, what style of buildings?
Yep. For the smaller stuff, depends on a few things. And I've talked about, last week, we really looked at condos, which I think is one of the great two smaller investment niches to focus on right now in Windsor. The other one that I personally love is taking a house and adding an additional dwelling unit. And I'm going to bring on next month, I'm going to bring on my teammate, Stephanie Saunders, who to our knowledge is the only real estate agent in Windsor that focuses on taking that house and adding the mother-in-law suite or the additional dwelling unit. The reason I love it is because we have a huge housing shortage, just like everybody else. But that's a way for the investor to help solve a societal problem And I don't know of a better way to make money for your own morals and ethics, number one, but number two, to help the very city that you're investing in. You know, anybody can buy a fourplex and rent it out, whether you own it or the other guy owns it. It doesn't have a positive or negative impact on the community. You just own it. It's good for you. As soon as you get a place and you add that mother-in-law suite and you've just doubled residential density at that property, that's going to cut down the chain where somebody who is struggling now has a place to live. Somebody who's homeless is now moved into something that has become available because you created that extra unit up the chain, right? I'm a huge fan of it for all those reasons, and it's very profitable. You can do burst strategy all day. I think most of the audience would know what burst strategy is, but you buy, you renovate, you rent out both units, you refinance, and you repeat. That's the only way to do burst strategy, I think, fairly sort of safely right now is doing that with Stephanie. And then the condos we like simply because I think the pandemic with us, you haven't had two of the three demographics moving into condos. So our three demographics down here that live in condos are is sort of post-secondary students. I call them young professionals that want to follow to bed and then drive 5 minutes through the tunnel to work in Detroit, and retirees. Retirees haven't been moving in because they don't want to leave their house in suburbia, move into an apartment building and catch the plague in an elevator. Right. So they haven't moved yet, even though they can't even navigate their stairs at home anymore. They're still holding on. That's the one demographic that's all going to come back once they feel safe. And then the other demographic is all the students that are now coming back to university, and St. Clair College, which just started a week ago. And you can hear on CBC radio, they don't know where they're living.
Yeah.
They're literally flying in from India to finish their PhDs. And they're like, I don't know where I'm going to live this year. Any condo that becomes available for rent, those mature students are grabbing. Law school, dentistry, health, MBA, grad school. They're pouring into those condos again, and that will drive up the price, especially when the retirees come back. So I say buy a bunch of condos, rent them out. They're super easy, and you'll just watch the property values start to catch up to houses, especially if the pandemic kind of finally goes away.
Yeah, interesting. That's definitely insightful. And actually, just before we started this call, you and I were kind of going over some things about the larger opportunities in Windsor, and you were kind of saying, perhaps there is a cost per unit in some of the multifamily that's on the market right now that's either inaccessible or maybe unintelligent. So,
yeah,
do you care to elaborate on that?
Well, so right now, your larger income properties like apartment buildings, anything that comes up for sale right now, we cannot in good conscience recommend buying it. They're just, the prices are dumb. like even our real estate income trust clients, like they will buy down to about a 4.8% cap rate. They're not going to go lower than that. And the stuff that you see coming on market is 2-3% cap rates in Windsor.
Yeah, which is
it's like what? No, I'm not recommend. Like, we're not selling. Even if you want to buy that, like, go grab some other agent to buy it. We're not selling you that. It's not going to work. So, Greg Mael, who's been my teammate for 18 years, there's a running joke with me and Greg. Every 2 or 3 years, we have to reinvent him like Madonna, And so now Greg is going through another reinvention where I would say 80% of his deals are selling businesses to investors, right? And you might be saying, oh, Rhys, I don't want to deal with businesses. Well, hold on a sec here. With the business that we're selling comes the real estate, right? And you've got a different mentality with the business people selling. Typically, they are having health problems, or they're older. They've made their money and they want to move on into retirement, right? Which is very common as the baby boomers are coming to an end of their work life. And so, on a regular basis now, we're getting asked to sell businesses. And it's a positive feedback loop. We're being asked to sell more businesses because they can see that we're selling businesses.
Yep.
And so it's really funny, man, because I'll even get like our venture capitalist, sort of investors that are looking to place some of their profits into bricks and mortar. And we're even placing them into those businesses. And they've either got somebody that can manage the business for them, or somebody agrees to stay on. So in some of these businesses, you're just taking over the employees, and you might even give them a few percentage points to make sure they don't leave, give them a piece of the action, right? But a lot of times too, somebody, we've got a client right now that does a ton of venture capitalist work, highly successful. He's buying a company where his brother-in-law is going to be the manager, right? And what you'll find is that what you're buying the real estate component of those businesses for is extremely reasonable. It's like a lot of times it's low end of fair market value, because the mentality is different. They're not selling to maximize the price on their income property. They're selling to move on for whatever reasons. It's a different mentality. So now you're actually getting somebody who's thinking in reasonable terms and selling in reasonable terms. So, and look, that model is not new. I mean, a great example is a buddy of mine is a hedge fund manager in Toronto with a hedge fund that is basically the Fabric Land family. And they made all their money not on the Fabric Land profits. They made money on the fact that when they wanted to open up a new Fabric Land, they would buy the plaza. They would make Fabric Land the anchor tenant, but they owned the real estate. They made a ton of money on the real estate, and there's a running joke. I don't know the saying, but that McDonald's is actually a real estate company.
Yeah.
Right. So this is not an unusual concept, guys. You might not have thought of it, but many people have before you. And so what we're doing right now is and again, there's another one that we're selling right now where the guy's going to run the business. Like, he's going to keep the team together there, but it's in a spot where eventually he'd be happy to knock down the building and build a big multifamily building himself.
Yeah.
Right. So those are definitely, and another thing you can do too is you can buy the business with the real estate, and then you can sell the business to somebody, right? And you've already put in place the nice lease for the next 20 years. So you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Right. You're on a 20-year amortization. You get a 20-year lease with a profitable business. You sell the profitable business. Hey, come on, guys. So that's the way that we're doing a lot of these businesses now, is that, in a nutshell, I just sort of explained the different ways that we kind of do it. And I can show you guys an example of that, for example, that we have listed right now in the MLS. But bear in mind, most of the businesses we sell never hit the MLS, right? We sell them exclusively to our client base.
Yeah, that's interesting. So how do people actually get closer in touch with you and to get on some of these lists? Like, what is the best strategy to stay in touch and be alerted of these types of opportunities?
Yeah, the first thing is to introduce yourself. I think a lot of the contact info is below the video on the YouTube channel. And I mean, my name is unique enough that if you put that into Google, you're going to find me pretty quickly. And what I would do is just introduce you to whoever the real estate agent is on my team that specializes in the niche that you want, right? So like Greg Mael, 35 years experience. We've been teammates for 18 of them. Steve DeRouge, he's the number one agent in Windsor for between 2 units and 6 units, multifamily, where there are opportunities again. And he's been my dear friend for a lot longer than we've been selling together, but he's been on the team now for 11 years. Sadie Morrow, who's the condo specialist, sells a ton of them to investors. In fact, she now has a small sort of real estate income trust that's buying up condos one at a time from her. And then they introduce them to their client base, and their client base chooses to invest in them. It's a very interesting model. And they're very happy with Sadie in those condos for a lot of the arguments that I've already brought up on this call. And then, so then Stephanie Saunders, she's our new agent at 5 years on the team. and she does
Nice.
all of our ADUs. Or she's our BRRRR specialist, basically.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Rhys. Well, did you have any tips that you think people should know if we're considering Windsor right now? And again, running under the assumption that we're probably investing from afar, right? Like perhaps investing from Toronto or maybe Kitchener-Waterloo area. Anything else you can give us that would maybe help us get closer to making a decision and pulling the trigger on investing in Windsor?
Yeah. Well, man, I have said this many times, but when I started the business 20 years ago, and there was nobody focused on income property sales back then in Windsor. So I owned 3 student rental properties when I was, in my 20s, and I was like, well, I'm the income property guy. And that sort of grew like wildfire because nobody else was focused on it. And I remember back then we had all these clients coming down from Toronto. And I remember back then when I was a rookie, I'm like, man, they are brave, but the difference is now is we've been doing this for 20 years and we're all investors ourselves. Everybody I've just mentioned, they're all investors themselves. And I mean, if you want to see the proof in the pudding, I mean, like Steve Jarouche, for example, on the team, he drives the Lamborghini and he's not overshooting his finances on that. Right. And it's not because of his real estate sales. It's because he put his real estate sales into real estate investment. Those investments grow. And I still remember the day where he goes, Rhys, I can refinance one of my sixplexes and pull out 900,000. I'm going to get a Lamborghini. It's like,
awesome.
How can you say no? Like, have fun, man. But we do that for our clients too. We just had a client retire and moved up and bought a nice, beautiful, lakefront home on one of the lakes up around Peterborough. And he sold him and his wife sold all his income properties that he bought with us down here. He was a literal ditch digger from Brantford.
Awesome.
That's what he was. Like, I mean, he could use the machinery to dig it. But I mean, at the end of the day, you see all these people, doing, I hate to say it, but doing dumb things like working with a residential real estate agent instead of an income property real estate agent, or, overanalyzing the numbers. I call it overanalysis paralysis, or making the numbers so ridiculously conservative that you couldn't even buy the Taj Mahal for $1.
Yeah.
Just all these sort of, almost like, I'm a Detroit Lions fan. So it's like a Detroit Lion shooting yourself in the foot. Like, and I've seen it so many times over the years. Irrational fear, where they take off at the 11th hour when the deal's perfectly good. It's like, but then I've got guys like Steve, the literal ditch digger that is walked away with $7 million in equity. My old track and field teammate just sold an apartment building through us, and he's retired at my age. He's retired at 48 years old. He was an engineer, and we just sold that apartment building for him. He's got other real estate, but I mean, these things are very real and they're done all the time for people from Toronto and the GTA. For you, it's new. For us, it's like a dentist pulling a tooth, man. It's so routine. We've been doing this for 20 years. Our investor base for 20 years has 95% being GTA. Yeah. And back in the old days, it was really funny. I couldn't understand at first when these people from Toronto are calling why they think like RoboCop is patrolling downtown and the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse have burnt half of the town down and every house worth $1. And I'm like, what's going on, right? Who are these people from Toronto all the time, right? Yeah. When I had people call from Montreal or Vancouver, I didn't have the same. It was so weird, man. So back then, we don't have to do it anymore, but back then, I had all my agents trained to, if somebody called from the 905, 647, or 416, stop selling the property they're inquiring about. Your whole goal is to get them physically down to Windsor.
Yeah.
And they would come off the 401 and I would come outside, or they'd come outside. We had the stopwatch and they'd come outside, me or them, one of the teammates, they come outside with the stopwatch and we say, okay, before you come in, I want you to stand at the side of the road here and tell us when you see a car that's all rusted out and missing a bumper. Go. And it would take 2 to 3 minutes. And one of them would inevitably say, wow, There's no rusted out cars down here. Okay, let's go inside. Yeah, and we had to do that. You don't have to do it so much anymore because I think the internet has kind of explained to people that it's really, 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 really nice down here. Like we have the highest net disposable incomes in Canada down here. I think we're okay, right?
Yeah.
You know, but it's so funny that it's this old stigma that goes back apparently to prohibition. So if you think Windsor's a rat hole, guess what? You're literally reiterating a now 100-year-old trope that hasn't been true for 80 years down here.
Yeah, there's definitely some beautiful homes and beautiful places to see in Windsor. Well, Rhys, thanks again for this market update. Like I think people get a lot out of hearing this stuff and really just taking a look at like what's happening in Windsor. You know, it's very easy at this point in time to be all consumed by all the content and news and things that are going on in the world. And I think it's great for everybody to get a tactical look at a market from an expert who's been doing it for a long time. And hear straight from the horse's mouth, right? Like there's jobs, there's opportunity, there's some great ways and strategies that you can use, and especially with the right power team to get into great deals and opportunities in that market. So
yeah, you guys really can use all the. Oh, sorry, Adam.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you can use all the same tradespeople and contractors and lawyers and everybody that we use. Right?
Yep.
I wouldn't recommend using out-of-town lawyers. They're just going to subcontract to a local lawyer anyway. And I wouldn't recommend using an out-of-town. And there's one exception to that. I can't think of his first name. His last name's Quinn. He's quite good out of Toronto, but he's the only one I've seen in 20 years that can handle the Windsor market for closing income property deals. But even like mortgage brokers, like if I had a dime every time your Toronto mortgage broker, who you swear walks on water, is going to do your mortgage down here, it's like the rules are different. There's different nuances that you have to know. So we recommend you use the local financiers down here. The last thing I will say too is if you're one of those people that is watching this video and you've been approved for a $500,000 mortgage, you're still renting in the GTA and you feel kind of stuck, you have two feasible options with us. You can buy an income property that offsets your rent and is now creating equity in the building. You could even do burst strategy with Stephanie, and you only have to put your money in once, and she will build up over 5 to 7 years a very nice portfolio. Guess what? Now you can afford to buy that house you always wanted in the GTA, right? So you can choose to move down here and live in that income property and then do the burst strategy to build your portfolio if you want to take advantage of everything going on down here. Or if you want to stay in the GTA, keep renting, but let us build up that portfolio down here. And then you can use some of the equity, just like Steve Druge did for his Lamborghini, right? 5 to 7 years from now, you're going to go, wow, I got all this equity. Well, now you can buy your house. Now you're not renting in the GTA anymore. And we're doing that through another teammate that I haven't mentioned called Jason Balsden. We're just starting that. Jason is going to be focused on that full time. So even for other real estate agents or mortgage brokers in the GTA that have these buyers that are stuck, they're mortgage approved and they have a down payment, but it's not suitable to the GTA. It's not enough. Bring them down here. If you're a real estate agent, we'll give you the 25% referral fee for your clients. And again, I love solving societal problems and making money that way through real estate. And to me, that's another one, man. And I'm going to get really passionate about that in the next 4 to 6 months.
Awesome, Rhys. Well, again, appreciate you coming on to the Canadian Real Estate Channel to share that update with us. And for those of you watching at home, please subscribe to the channel. Make sure the notifications are on so that you guys can continue getting these great updates. Because again, Rhys is bringing that passion every month for you guys. He's got this for you. So, and all this information is down below. If you haven't already clicked the links, I don't know what you're doing. You're sleeping on us. So thank you very much. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks, Rhys.
Yeah, Adam. Cheers, man.